Hello everyone, welcome to Knowledge India once again. In the next video of Google Cloud hands-on learning series, we are going to learn one of the most important topics probably, which is Google Cloud Identity. Now, if you are going ahead and setting up Google Cloud for one of your enterprise customers, you will go ahead and do the setup, right? Because for any organization, they will have the users or the employees will have their corporate credentials and probably in an Azure Active Directory or in an Active Directory. And when you go ahead and set up Google Cloud for them, they would not want to remember one more password, right? With which they should log in to the Google Cloud account. So what you will do is you will go ahead and set up Google Cloud Identity and make it work with Azure AD so that their existing users or groups can flow from Azure AD to the Google Cloud Identity. So that's what I'm going to show you in this particular video. It is going to be a detailed video. So I will request you to watch it completely. Take notes if you like. Best thing would be that you go ahead and do it on your end while you are watching the video, right? That will be really good if you do the whole setup, right? It will also be beneficial for you because as we move ahead, you will see videos related to organizations with a complete hierarchy where you have an organization folder and then projects and resources. So if you go ahead and do the setup as I'm showing you in this particular video on your end as well, it will become very easy for you to follow the upcoming tutorials as well. Okay, so with that, let's get started. All right, everyone, we want to go ahead and set up the DNS zone for our domain. So the domain is registered, somewhere, which I'll show you. But I'm going to set up this DNS zone here in Azure. So I'll press on create DNS zone, create a new resource group. I'm going to call it cloudeasy.au. That's my domain name as well. Resource group location, I can, of course, keep it anything. Let's say I'm just going to keep it Australia Central. We'll say next. All right, so we will go ahead and say create. So it will take some time and it will get created. Deployment is in progress. It says it is successful. So I'll say go to the resource. All right, so you can see that cloudeasy.au, this DNS zone is created. The 4 name servers are given here as well. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and pick these name servers and I'll go ahead and put it the place where I've registered the domain. So let me bring it here. So in this window you can see my domain is registered, cloudeasy.au. I'm gonna put the name servers here. So let me copy this and put it here. Let me remove the dot. All right, so this is updated. Good. It will take some time for it to get reflected. That's fine. We can wait for some time. What we'll do next is we will go ahead and try to add this custom domain, the domain which I own, cloudeasy.au. I'll go ahead and add this custom domain in my Azure Active Directory. So let's go here and you can see that this is my Azure Active Directory, right? So within this, on the left hand side, you can see custom domains. So click here, custom domain names, and we can go and say add custom domain, right? And here I'm gonna say cloudeasy.au. Okay, so I'll say add domain. So now it says that this domain has been added. Good. But to use this thing with your Azure AD, to use this custom domain with your Azure AD, create a new TXT record with your domain name registrar using the info below. So it is saying that go ahead and create a TXT record like this, in your DNS basically. So what I'll do is, because I'm using this DNS, I'm just gonna go ahead and create a record here. Okay, so let's try and see. It is txt type. Okay, so we'll just select txt. What else? At the rate, and let me just copy this as the destination. So this, and what else? TTL is 3600. All right, so with this we'll go ahead and say okay. So let's see, this txt record is created. I'll go ahead and try to press verify. It may happen that it will take some time, right? Because with the domain registrar, we just now changed the name servers. Now that doesn't happen immediately. It takes some time, so it's okay if it takes some time. We'll wait. We'll have to wait, and after that we'll have to verify this. But let's try and do it now once. Okay, so it says successfully verified, domain name cloudez.au for use with Azure Knowledge India. So basically this is done. Now if I want, I can go ahead and make this domain as the primary one as well, right? We can go ahead and do that. If I want, I can do that. So let's say I'll say make it primary. Say yes. Right, so looks like it is done. Let me click here once again, and now if you see, let me refresh this. I have of course both of these. The first domain name comes pre-built, right? Whenever you create an Azure Active Directory, you will get a on microsoft.com domain name, but you can go ahead and add your own custom domain, which I have done, which is cloudez.au. It is verified now, and I've also made it as the primary one. Okay, so this part is done. Now let's see the next steps. All right, folks, so what we want to do next is that we'll go ahead and set up Google Cloud Identity, right? And once we set that up, we will make it work with our Azure Active Directory, because we do not want to create users on our Google side, right? Instead, we want to bring our users which actually exist in our enterprise already, right? The organization for whom you are implementing Google Cloud, you would not want that the users in that organization, they have to go ahead and remember one more username and password, with which they will actually log in to the Google Cloud, right? So instead of that, what we're going to do is we'll set up Google Cloud Identity here, and we will make it work with Azure Active Directory. All the users of our organization are already there in Azure Active Directory, and then we'll be able to kind of sync those users from Azure Active Directory to the Google Cloud side, right? So let's go ahead and do that. We will first start with setting up Google Cloud Identity. So Cloud Identity and Organization, click on this. Let's see. It says your current account this is not an administrator of an organization on Google Cloud. If you are a company administrator trusted with people with complete control over a company's Google Cloud resources, proceed, and this and that. Actually, what you have to do is you can go ahead and read all of that. But the thing is, I'm going to say I'm a new customer and I need to set up cloud identity. And for that, I will go ahead and, of course, I'll verify my domain. So I'm going to click on sign up for cloud identity. All right, so now it is asking me the business name, of course. So I'll say Cloud Easy Solutions. Okay, this is you. Region Australia is fine. Say next, and you will be the Google Workspace account admin since you are creating the account. Yes, makes sense. So yeah, I'm just gonna say Cloud Easy Solutions. right? And then it is asking me to enter the domain name. Okay, so let's try and put this cloudeasy.au. Okay, email sent to this won't be affected until you set up email. That's fine. So I'm gonna say next. We'll send you occasional emails. I'll just say no thanks. Educate your users. Okay, next thing is you will use your username to sign into your Google Workspace account and create your business email address. This is fine. I need to probably specify an email here. So I'm just gonna say, let's say admin, and I will actually go ahead and set up some password for this. Okay, all right, so we'll go ahead and say I'm not a robot, right? Agree and continue. So it says your cloud identity account has been created, ready to set up your cloud identity business account. We'll walk you through each step. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. So first it is asking me to log in. So I'm gonna say next, and I will go ahead and try to log in. So yeah, it is asking me to put a phone number. All right, so it says welcome to your new account, admin at cloudeasy.au. right? So all of this is fine. I'll just go ahead and say I understand. Now the very important thing to see here is look at the URL. I'm now I'm now using this URL admin.google.com. So this is the URL which you actually use when you are dealing with cloud identity. So we'll say next. Protect your cloudeasy.au. This is fine. Verification, wait time maybe up to 60 minutes. Okay, let's go ahead and do this. All right, so it is gonna ask me to go ahead and add something in the domain again. So I'll say okay, I'm ready to protect. Okay, I know where my DNS settings are. So now it is asking me to go ahead and create a txt record with this value. So this is copied. I have my stuff open here, so I'll go ahead and just create another record set. It will be txt type. Put the value here. What did they say as the value? Okay. Saying at the rate. So what we'll do is we already have this record. I'll just go ahead and paste it here, and that should do the trick. So now if you see, let me refresh this. If you see, I have now added two values, right? For the same record, there are two values now. This is one which Google gave me. All right, this is done. Let's say protect domain. So now it is doing the verification. It will take some time. I'll try to close this because anyway this is happening at the back end. Let's try to see. So you can see here it says this is protected, right? Okay, so this part is fine. Now it says create new users, right? So what I'll do here is I'll go here on the left hand side and we'll go to directory. So currently you can see just this one user is there, and what we are gonna do is we will now go ahead and actually do the syncing with the Azure AD. All right, so as next step, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and try to set up a user here in the Google Cloud Identity side. And the reason why we are setting that up is because that particular user will be used by Azure AD, to interact with Google Cloud Identity. So because we want to kind of keep it separate, so what we'll do is, let's go here and we will create an organizational unit, right? So I'll say create organizational unit, and I'm just gonna call it automation. Right, so we'll create this organizational unit here. Now we'll go to users and we will go ahead and actually create a new user, right? So we'll say add new user. I'm just gonna call it Azure AD provisioning, right? We can give it some name, click here, right? And here you can go ahead and select the organizational unit. So I don't want to keep it at the top level, rather I want to keep it in the automation organizational unit. So we'll say yes, select that, and then we can go ahead and actually specify a password. I don't want this user to change the password or anything like that, so we'll just go ahead and create this user. Right, so this user is created. Now you need to understand that basically this user will be used to ultimately create the entities, or I should say the word, to create the identities like users, groups, etc. on the Google Cloud side. This particular user will be used to provision that. We'll not do it manually. It will be used by Azure AD, but this is the user which is gonna go ahead and actually provision everything, right? So let's refresh this and see why the other one is not visible here. All right, so this is created, good. Now what we'll do is we'll go ahead and click on this one. We'll have to go ahead and make this user as a super admin, because this user will be able to go ahead and create stuff, right? So for this particular user, go ahead and look at assign roles, right? And I'll just give it super admin. This is a recommended approach. You need to do this, and it is also important that of course nobody else should get access to this particular user. You will not share the credentials of this user with anyone, right? Okay, so this is done. So the reason why we gave this particular user Azure AD provisioning super admin access, or we added that role, it's because we want that all the user creation here should happen via this particular user. That's the need. That's why we have to make it super admin. So now the next step which we have to do is we will now go ahead and actually connect our Google Cloud Identity with our Azure Active Directory, right? So for that we need to go to our Azure Active Directory as such. Here you remember, if you have seen our AWS SSO video, some of the steps would look similar. Okay, so we have done a detailed video where we have shown that how you can go ahead and set up SSO in case of AWS with Azure Active Directory. Now we are doing Google Cloud with Active Directory, with Azure Active Directory, right? So go to your Azure Active Directory and go to Enterprise Applications. And here we'll go ahead and say new application. So you can see here at the top itself, you are seeing this thing called Google Cloud Platform. Even if you don't see it, you can always go ahead and search it. So if you search for Google Cloud, you will be able to see this in detail. Google Cloud G Suite Connector by Microsoft. So go ahead and click on this one, right? And you can go ahead and then give it a name. Let's give it, or you can give it whatever name you want, right? I can even call it, let's say, like this. So I'll go ahead and say create. Okay, so this application is added now. So what you need to do next is go here on the left hand side. Within manage, you have properties. So go to properties, and you see here there is enabled for users to sign in, right? So this one for now we will set up as no. Okay, and then you also have user assignment required. Set this also to no. Set visible to users also to no. Okay, so go ahead and then save this thing. So there were 3 things. We have gone ahead and made all of them as no. After this, we'll go ahead and go to provisioning on the left hand side. So in this, we'll go ahead and say get started. And currently you can see manual is selected. We will go ahead and change this to automatic, right? So when you change this to automatic, you can see it is asking you use Azure AD to manage the creation and synchronization of user accounts in the Google Cloud based on user and group assignment. So it is asking you that go ahead and put the admin credentials, right? So what you will do is you will go ahead and click on this authorize. So when you do that, it will actually open up a pop-up window like this, right? And in this one, you should go ahead and actually specify that that particular user which you created just now on the Google Cloud Identity side, that Azure AD provisioning user, that one you should go ahead and put here. So I'll go ahead and say use another account, and just to copy this thing, I will go ahead and copy this. And we need to put the password, which you remember we had set it up. All right. So here, you have to go through this whole thing, and then you have to say I understand. Basically what's happening here is from the Azure side, we are actually kind of connecting that particular Google Cloud account, right, which we created in the Google Cloud Identity, right? So what has happened, let's see. Okay, so yeah, we have to say allow here, and once that is done, you can see it says processing authorization, right? So once this is done, we should be able to move ahead. Let's see. All right, so now it makes this button enabled for you, which is called test connection. So when I press this test connection, you will be able to basically check that from Azure AD whether the Google Cloud Identity is reachable or not. So I'm going to say test connection. It says the supplied credentials are authorized to enable provisioning. Very good. Okay, so this part is done, right? What we'll do next is we can go ahead and very well, of course, save this thing. We will come to these things later on. So now what we need to do is we have already saved this thing, right? So this is done. So the next thing which we want to do is we want to go ahead and actually configure these mappings, right? This is basically to kind of tell Azure AD that when you are pushing users and groups to Google Cloud Identity, which fields you should push, right? And how does it go and gets mapped on the Google Cloud Identity side, right? Because every user and group will have multiple attributes. For example, for a user, you will have maybe a username, a first name, last name, an email, and things like that, right? So you need to go ahead and map this thing. So let's do this. We'll go ahead and click on this one, provision Azure Active Directory users, and here under this attribute mapping, if you see, we have got, multiple attributes here. So you have got, let's say, the surname. So we can go ahead and make it this default value to, let's say, something like this. And there is a given name, right? To this also we'll go ahead and set it like this. Now we can go ahead and save this thing. Right. So you have to remember that that the important ones here are, of course, the primary email, which is this one, right? Primary email. So we are talking about the attribute on the Google Cloud side: name.family name, name.given name, and the suspended. These 4 fields are really important. Other fields are optional. Even if you go ahead and delete them, it won't matter that much. The next thing is you need to go and do the necessary settings for groups as well, right? Well, for groups, it looks fine. You've got user principal name going to primary email, and this looks okay. So this is fine. Okay, so we'll go ahead and just close this, and we'll close this as well. Okay. So if you remember, we had started with provisioning. We went ahead and configured the whole thing by giving, that Azure AD user, which we had created on the Google Cloud side. All of that, we had set it up. And after that, now we are back to this particular screen. The next thing which we want to do is you want to go ahead and kind of specify that which users or groups you want to push from the Azure Active Directory to the Google Cloud side. Think about this. In your organization, in your enterprise organization, you might have thousands of Azure AD groups, right? You do not need to send all of them to the Google Cloud identity side. You also need to understand that like as you create more and more users on the Google Cloud identity side, you will get charged, for that. Anyway, the right thing would be to kind of go ahead and control that which users and groups you want to push to the Google Cloud identity side, right? So you can come to this particular page. Within manage, you have users and groups, right? And here you see assign users and groups to app roles for your application here, right? So here you will actually specify that for this particular application, which we have created, enterprise application, which users and groups we want to push. So let me click here on add user and group. All right, so now it tells me that my Azure Active Directory plan level is somewhat low. So I need to probably go ahead and upgrade this, right? Currently, I can just go ahead and select users if I want to push. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and first upgrade the plan here, probably. All right, folks, so it took some time. I had to go ahead and activate a free license, basically a trial license for Azure AD, premium version basically. So I did that. Did not cost anything. So I activated it. It will work for 90 days. Good enough. I also went ahead and created an additional user here on the Azure AD side called John, with the name John, and I have created a group as well, right? And added the user John to that particular group. So this is what I did in the background, and I had to come to this particular screen a couple of times, but it took some time to refresh, and I would suggest that go ahead and do a hard refresh, for this to work. So now after doing a hard refresh of the screen, you can see the error message is gone. And what we are doing currently is we are actually trying to select that which users or groups we actually want to push, right, from the Azure AD side to Google Cloud Identity side. So we are there here, right? Within manage, we have users and groups, and we are operating within our Google Cloud Enterprise application. So I'm going to click on add user and or group, and here you can see it says none selected. So when you click here, it will now list all the users and groups, for you on the right hand side. It will list all of that. So you can go ahead and select if you want users as well, but as I've told you, it will be a good practice to go ahead and push only the group. So for now, I'll go ahead and select this particular group alone, and I'll say select. So it says when you assign a group to an application, only users directly in the group will have access, right? The assignment does not cascade to nested groups, which is fine. So I'll go ahead and press on assign. Okay, so now it says that this particular group, we are saying that it should be pushed, on the Google Cloud side. So now let's go here, go to overview, and let's go to provisioning. So now currently you can see the provisioning hasn't happened. Of course, I think so. So let's try to refresh this and see. So provisioning interval is 40 minutes. Let's try and press start provisioning and see what happens. So it says provisioning is scheduled to start. At the same time, let's come here and we will try to see, right, if there are any groups which are provisioned on this side, on the Google Cloud Identity side. Okay, so you can see that this user John Lowe got created here. How did this user come here? This user came here because I actually have created this user John, I told you, on the Azure AD side, right? So this is good, but on the groups, we are still not seeing the group appear here, right? So let's try and see here. Let's try to refresh. So now it says cycle completed, one user has been pushed, fine. If you try to see here, no results found, it's okay. So okay, I think the reason why group is not appearing there is because of the, it is because of the fact that groups will have a slightly different email. So let me go to the groups here. So if you actually see, this particular group has got this email which is there with like @azureki.onmicrosoft.com. So the problem which we have to solve is that we'll have to put in place some sort of transformation, okay, so that the email which is there with that onmicrosoft.com, that gets converted to cloudeasy.au, because that's what it will take here. Okay, anything else which is coming with some other domain, it won't accept. So even if Azure AD is trying to push it, it will not get created here. So like the group which got synced, in that particular group, actually there are two users, right? John Lowe and one more user, but John Lowe has got the email ID with cloudeasy.au, so that's why it came here. But the other user has got an email with onmicrosoft.com, and that's why it's not appearing here. Okay, so if you refresh this and see if there are any logs available, let's see. So you can see here the reason. Group GCP power users, this is the group which I had created at azureki.onmicrosoft.com, will be skipped because it has not been matched with any entry in the target directory, and there has been no change in the any attribute that could alter that state. Earlier also, like for example, look at this particular user. So there is this user called kiadmin at azureki.onmicrosoft.com, right? So here the skip reason is inaccessible domain. That's what I was trying to explain you, that the domain is not matching. Whereas if you look at this particular user John, this one worked because here the domain which we are using is cloudeasy.au, right? So that's what is happening continuously, and there's a way to solve this. What we'll have to do is we'll have to go ahead and actually figure out the transformation of this email which is on microsoft.com to cloudeasy.au, and once we are able to do that, it will work. So one more thing which I want to just show you is that on the other screen where we had like created the cloud identity, suppose that it actually brought me to this particular screen. I just accepted things, and now it says created cloudeasy.au organization and granted admin at cloudeasy.au this user the organization admin role. So if I click here at the top, you can now see that organization is coming up, right? So this is set up. We'll also go ahead and press on activate. So this is essentially creating a completely new Google Cloud account. You'll have to understand, right? The one which I had with already with the Gmail one, this is not related to that now. It is actually now creating a completely new billing account here. And of course, an organization got created. So let me go ahead and put these details. All right, folks. So I just went ahead and entered my credit card information, went ahead and, did the regular process. And now my new billing account is created. My organization is there in place. And of course, this is a new Google Cloud account, and a first project is also created. And this is the organization. If I press on all, currently it shows here no organization, but if I go here, not sure why it is showing up like this, but this is the organization, right? I can click here, and once I click here, you will be able to see, right? So this should also get refreshed, but anyway, this is my organization. Now if I go ahead and just search for organization here, right? So of course we have done this. So it says task complete, a cloud identity or workspace account was created, and you are a member of this organization. This is fine, right? So if I click on identity and organization, you will see that if I want, I can go to organization policies now, right? Earlier it was not possible to do these things. If I click on manage resources, you can see that the project which is there, which the first project which got created, this is now created under my organization, right? Okay, I think this part is okay. Now if I click here, it still shows up like this, which is fine. But if I go to all, somehow here it's not showing up the organization. Let's do a hard refresh of this page. Now if you see, if you go to all, right, it is saying that you have got this particular organization, and this is showing up below this. So you will see this behavior at many places in the Google Cloud Console, that you might have to go ahead and actually do a hard refresh of your page. So please do that, right? Many of the times just don't, it might happen that you do not see the latest information. So if you're expecting something to change and it is not happening, what you need to do is go ahead and do a hard refresh, do a control F5. Okay. All right. So this stuff is done. And I think we got our organization created. So we are yet to solve the group part, which we'll do. But thankfully now we are in a state where we can go ahead and actually look at all the IAM things from the organization perspective will be able to do that, right? All right, let's move ahead. So we had certain issues, and as I explained you, that in order to sync your AD groups from your Azure Active Directory to Google Cloud, uh, you need to do some sort of transformation. Okay, so I went ahead and checked this thing, and what we have done here is, if you go here to our enterprise application in the Azure Active Directory, um, and go to the provisioning part, right? So you remember we had done the mapping of AWS, sorry. So if you remember, we had done the mapping of AD users and AD groups, right? So we'll have to go there and we need to do certain changes there. So you should go to settings here, in the mapping section, where you have provision Azure Active Directory users and provision Azure Active Directory groups. So the user part will work fine, right? Because the users actually have an email which is @cloudeasy.au, but the Active Directory groups, they have got an email with onmicrosoft.com, right? So what we have done here is we have gone ahead and applied a transformation. Let me show you the transformation. So you should click here, and earlier here normally whatever was coming, like I think email was coming, right? So instead of that, what we are saying is we will go ahead and derive an email address. Okay, not a real email address though, but we will derive an email address from the name of the AD group, right? So you can click here and you can go ahead and apply this transformation. How to find out how, the method of writing this transformation? For that, I will put a URL in the description, which you can go ahead and check. That is basically from Azure AD documentation, which tells you that how you can go ahead and write this type of expression. So if you see, essentially what we are doing here is, let me click here. What I've done is, earlier here there was no transformation happening here. So now I went ahead and selected expression, and in the formula, or expression formula, what I have written is append display name, and what do you append to that? -group @cloudeasy.au. So whatever is the AD group name, that will be taken, and further to that, -group will be added, and @cloudeasy.au, and this will go and become the email address on the Google Cloud Identity side. Okay, and anyway, you know that on the Google Cloud Identity side, any user or group is being identified uniquely with the email address, right? So with this, every AD group will also have an email address which ends with @cloudeasy.au, and then it will be able to flow towards the Google Cloud Identity. So that's the change which you need to do. So you do that and say okay. Of course, we have done it already. I just wanted to show you. What we have done is, after doing this, if you just go back here, yeah, that's fine. We haven't changed anything. So let me show you here. If I go to groups, I created a new group called, let's say, G2, right? And of course, there are other groups as well. For example, there are 3 groups overall. So here, if you go to users and groups, right, within enterprise application, you go to users and groups, and here I have selected all the 3 groups, with which I'm really saying that all these 3 groups should flow towards, and should flow or should sync and go towards Google Cloud Identity, right? So actually these 3, G2, GCP power users, and test group, all 3 are now appearing here on the Google Cloud Identity side. Let me go to the directory here and go to the groups. You can see G2, GCP power users, and test group. all three, and you can see their email address as well, g2-group, right? GCP power users -group, and then test group -group. So you can understand that whatever transformation or expression we applied there, that is working fine. Let's go ahead and try to maybe just create one more, and that should also come. And why not? Let's go ahead and create a user so that we are able to see this whole flow. So let's click here and say create new user, and we will say this user as Tom, right? And the name is Tom Hardy, right? So this is mandatory. We can go ahead and generate a password, or you can say let me create, right? And we can go ahead and if you want, we can add this to a new group now itself, or we can go ahead and create a group later on. So for now, I'll just leave it as it is, and I'll just say create, right? And we will go, okay, it says unable to create user. So there is some sort of issue happening here. If I go ahead and just choose auto generate password, it will get created. This is some sort of bug, as they are saying currently people are facing. I looked at it on the internet. So I just changed it, and now I've selected auto generate password. So we'll go ahead and now try to say create, and it should get created. This is really weird, right? So you can see it is successfully created. Very good. So if I refresh here, you will start seeing the new user. You should see that it's not appearing yet. Go ahead and do a hard refresh, right? Mr. Tom should appear now. Tom Hardy is there. All right, good. Tom Hardy will not appear on Google Cloud Identity side yet, because I have not mapped Tom as a user here within enterprise application. Only those users or group which we map here or which we select here, only those will flow towards Google Cloud Identity side. And as a good practice, we should not be syncing individual users. So for that matter, I'm just gonna remove this one, John Doe. So I don't want to send any individual user. If any user is part of the group, that will get synced, which is fine. Now I'm just going to create a new group here, right? And now because we have applied the formula in such a manner, it doesn't matter. You can go ahead and create a security group, or you can go ahead and create a Microsoft 365 group. Both will work really. So now we are just going ahead and creating, and I'm just going to call it sysadmin, right? Let's say this is the name of the group. So this is fine. And we'll just go ahead and add a member. And this time the member is going to be Tom, right? So we'll go ahead and say select, and we'll say create. So with this, our new group should get created, right? And it will appear here only after a hard refresh. Anyway, while this comes up and tells us that yes, it is there, we can now go ahead and add this new group sysadmin here. So we'll go ahead and say add user or group, and I will go ahead and click here and search for sysadmin, and we'll say select, right? So it says when you assign a group to an application, only users directly in the group will have access, right? So in this case, the user Tom should also flow to the other side. So this has been added, and now we don't need to do anything. We can just wait for some time, or we can go to provisioning and try to say that we can try to restart the provisioning, which will take care of pushing all the changes which we have done this side to the Google Cloud Identity side. Now this takes some time, right? It's really not in a way that you go ahead and press the button and it happens immediately. So you need to wait for some time, be patient, and come back and look at the status. So let's go here and try to refresh and see. All right, so you can see here sysadmin user has appeared, right? And if you just go ahead and basically expand this, right, or basically click on the sysadmin group, you will see a direct member here as well. If you expand this, you'll be able to see that member is tom@cloudez.eu, right? So that is appearing here. Very good. If you go to the users, you will be able to see, you should ideally see that new user here. Let's see. Yeah, oh yeah, it is appearing. It's just that the name hasn't appeared here. It's probably because we did not assign a name to our user Tom at the correct place. So if you go ahead and see, it's probably because of the attributes. So if you go to properties, you see first name and last name is empty, so you can go ahead and just set that up if you like. Not a big thing really. Right, so we'll go ahead and say save. So next time when it gets synced, it should ideally go ahead and update that. Right, not a big thing. Now our user John is still here because John is part of some of the AD groups. That's why it is there here. And you can see for Tom it says active, added recently. All right, folks. So with this, we have completed our setup to an extent where we are able to successfully sync the required groups and the users which are part of those groups from Azure AD to Google Cloud Identity, right? So this is appearing here. If I want, I can go ahead and actually, let's say I can go to the Google Cloud Console and I can go ahead and do some role allocation for this particular group. If you want, let me go ahead and show you this. Let me copy this group name. I'll go here and let me just pick up one of the projects here, and I'll go to IAM and we'll go ahead and do some role allocation. Okay, and for the role allocation, we're going to select this particular group which has actually been synced from Azure AD. So I'll go ahead and say grant access, and in the new principal, I'll go ahead and paste this, right? And then let us go ahead, and for now, I'm gonna give a very simple role. So I'll go ahead and just give some viewer role, right? Maybe actions viewer. I can go ahead and give some other role as well. For now, maybe I'll just choose the basic viewer. That also should be fine, right? So, all right, so that's added here in this particular project. So you can see that the role allocation is also working. I'm able to grant a role to a particular group. So now any user who is part of this particular group will have access to this particular project called app1, right? Okay, so the last piece which is pending or which is still remaining is how are our users gonna log into Google Cloud Console? That's the piece which is still pending. So for that, we need to do an additional step. Now let me go ahead and show you that part. All right, folks, so you can see one change here for our user Tom, right? I went ahead and updated the name on the Azure AD side, and then within some time, it actually made those changes, or those changes actually are synced to our Google Cloud Identity, and now you can see the name of Mr. Tom is appearing properly, right? So with that, we are in good shape. The next step which we want to do is we want to go ahead and do the necessary setup so that Mr. Tom can log in to the Google Cloud account by using their Azure AD credentials, right? We are not going to set up any password for Tom on the Google side, because then it just beats the whole purpose. Tom will have to remember one more password, right? And it also breaks the whole GML thing. So the idea is that Tom's existing identity, which is there in the Azure AD, that identity should be used, and using that, Tom should be able to log in, and or I should say Tom should be able to authenticate, right? And after the authentication, Tom should be able to get into the Google Cloud Console in the browser. So that's what we are going to do as the next step. All right, so for this, what we'll do is we will go to our Azure AD once again, and we will go ahead and create one more enterprise application, right? So we had created one already. Now we are going to create one more. Okay, So we'll go here and we'll say new application, and we can search for Google Cloud, and we can go ahead and select this one, Google Cloud G Suite connector by Microsoft, right? We can go ahead and set up some name. This time let's call it just Google Cloud, okay, and say add or create basically. So once this is done, what we have to do is we need to go ahead and edit some of the properties of this enterprise application. Okay, so let's go to the properties. As this enterprise application is created, we'll go to the properties, and within properties you have this attribute which says enabled for users to sign in, right? We need to make sure that it is yes, right? You also have user assignment required. See here, assignment required. So make sure that this also should be yes, right? So this is all fine. I think the default values look okay, but these are the things which you should verify. So what we'll do next is we will go here to users and groups, okay, and we will basically go ahead and select those groups which we want, that basically members of these groups should be able to log into Google Cloud, right? And for that they will first authenticate, of course, here at Azure AD level. But the idea is the groups which you had selected or which you had added for the first enterprise application, the same thing you have to do here as well. So I'm just gonna go ahead and click on this, and I'll try to select the groups only. So I'll go ahead and select all the groups which I have, especially the sysadmin one. I'm quite interested. You can see that I have not selected any user. I have not selected the user Tom for that matter, right? I've just selected the required groups here. Okay. All right. So what we need to do next is that we will go to single sign-on option, right? And we will go ahead and use the SAML option here. So click on the SAML card. And now we need to go ahead and change some configurations. We'll go ahead and click on edit. What we'll do is we'll make this one as the default. We can even delete the other one, right? So this is fine. And in the reply URL, we'll go ahead and say add a reply URL, and we're going to put here HTTPS, right, www.google.com, and in the sign on URL, right, we need to go ahead and basically we need to put a URL, but in that URL you need to replace something. So I'm going to pick this from the documentation and paste it here. It is also mentioned here. So what you need to do is, let's say you paste this thing, but here instead of primary domain you have to put the domain which you have configured on the Google Cloud Identity side, and for me that domain is cloudeasy.au. So that's what I have put here. Okay, now we can go ahead and basically save this. Rest of the things are okay, so we'll go ahead and say save. So once you save these things, so basically 3 values you have to take care of here, right, which are identifier, reply URL, and sign on URL. So this is done. Let's close this thing. This, whatever was red, now that is gone, right? So now you have to go to the certificate part here, right? And you need to go ahead and download this certificate, which is the base 64. So I'll go ahead and download this. Okay, done. All right, the last thing here is this one, set up Google Cloud card, right? So what you will do is you have got this thing like configuration URL, right? So you have login URL and all of this. So what you will do is go ahead and copy this, because you will actually make use of it. So let's keep this open, it's fine, right? What we'll do is we will now go ahead and go to this one, attributes and claims, right? And here let's click on edit. So here what we need to do is we need to go ahead and get rid of everything which is there here in the additional claims, right? So we can just go ahead and delete these things. Okay, so all the additional ones are gone, right? And we should just have this one which says unique user identifier, name ID, SAML, and on the right hand side we have got user, principal name, and whatever. So what is this default one? Just leave this here, and we can go ahead and now close this thing, right? So now we have only one item here in attributes and claims. So with this, our part on the Azure AD side is done. Now we'll go to the Google Cloud Identity, which is here. All right, so what we'll do is we'll go to security here, right? In the Google Cloud Identity, go to security, and there is authentication, and within authentication you have SSO with third-party IDP. So click on this. So here you need to click on, of course you need to use this option, so you'll click on add SSO profile. So let's make this enabled, set up SSO with third-party identity provider, right? So in the sign-in page URL, right, you have to put that URL which you got on the Azure AD side, which is basically here. If you remember this one, this login URL. So let's copy this and we'll go ahead and paste it here. Okay, so that's the first step. Now on the sign out side, right, you can go ahead and get it from the documentation. I'll put this URL in the description if you want, right? So you need to go ahead and put this, and then you've got change password URL. For that also there is a standard value which you can go ahead and put. So put it here, right? And you need to go ahead and upload the certificate. So click here and you should go ahead and basically select the certificate which you downloaded just few minutes back. All right, so this is done, and with this I think all of this is fine. We'll go ahead and say save. So you can see that this part looks fine, right? So if you scroll down further within the same page, you need to scroll down further. So you have got this manage SSO profile assignments, right? So you need to go ahead and click get started. Now on this page, you need to look at the automation OU. If you remember, we created it earlier, and in the automation OU, we have kept one user who has got all the admin permissions or the super user role, right? That user we had created, which was supposed to be used by Azure AD. So that user alone is there in the automation OU, right? So go ahead and select this. Now here, especially just for this one, we'll go ahead and change the SSO profile assignment from organization's third-party SSO profile to none. So we are basically saying that for this particular organizational unit, we will, the SSO thing should not get used. So after selecting this, you need to go ahead and say override. Okay. All right, so this is done. Good. You need to remember that the certificate which we downloaded from the Azure AD side, that certificate has got a validity. So you need to, keep this in mind and probably rotate the certificate at regular intervals. Okay, so you might have to get a new certificate from the Azure AD side, bring it, and then upload it here on the Google Cloud Identity side. So this needs to be done once in a couple of months. Okay, so I think that's it. We have done the setup. We will now go ahead and try to test and see if things are really working. Okay, so what we'll do is we will go ahead and try to use a completely new browser, right, so that we are not interfering with anything. And in a completely new browser, we'll try to go ahead and log in using Tom. Before I do that, even what I would like to do is I would like to just check here that yes, Tom has got some access, right? Okay, that part is fine. Okay, basically Tom's group has got access. That part I checked. Okay, so what we'll do is we will go ahead and open up the Google Cloud URL in a completely new window. Right, cloud.google.com. So you need to go ahead and click on sign in. We will go ahead and specify the email of Tom, which is tom@cloudeasy.au, and we'll press on next, and let's see if things work really. Fantastic. It has redirected me to the Microsoft login page, right? So I can go ahead and try to log in here. Let's see. All right, let me put the password. Password is incorrect. Okay, maybe I should just go ahead and reset that. Maybe I did not set it up correctly, or I don't remember it. Okay, I'll just change it in a minute. Oh yeah, I remember it was an auto-generated password, right? Yes, that's why I don't remember it. So let's do this. I'm gonna press on reset. It gives me a password. Good. So I'll go ahead and make use of that here. Say sign in. So it asks me to go ahead and update it. Okay, it has accepted my password. So for now I'll say, okay, skip this thing for the next 14 days. Yeah, I'll just say yes. And let's see if I am able to get inside Google Cloud. Wow. So we just completed the full flow. I'll go ahead and say, I understand this really. And with that, I should be able to get inside my Google Cloud Console as Mr. Tom, right? So what you saw just now is that I went and tried to log into Google Cloud Console, opened the Google Cloud URL, which is cloud.google.com, set sign in, and after that, as soon as I went ahead and actually entered my email, which is my corporate email, tom@cloudeasy.au, and I pressed sign in, Google Cloud detected it and sent me to my Azure AD page, right? And then at Azure AD level, I went ahead and entered my password, authenticated myself with my corporate credentials. Once it went successful, again the control came back to the Google Cloud, so I don't need to remember any new password for Google Cloud, and I'm logged in to the Google Cloud console using my corporate email address, right? So it works, really works. Thank you. Good stuff. Let's get into this. And now if you see here, also it is asking me you've got all of this free credits and everything. Yeah, so I don't want this. I don't want to activate all of this. I've just selected the project because if you remember, I have been allocated some rights. My AD group was allocated certain rights, so because of which I'm able to see, you can see here, I'm able to see all the different projects in the organization, which is fine. But I think I can go ahead and I can go ahead and just select or work with only few of these. These two projects got created just now. If you see this carefully, I want to just show you here. This particular group has been given access on app 1 only. If I show you app 2, this user doesn't have any access, and I just want to actually show you that last piece in this demo, right? So let's go to the other window, and I'll go ahead and try to select app 2. Okay, and maybe go ahead and try to see the resources in app 2. You can see I'm getting an error. But if I go to app 1, this one, right? Okay, app 1, and I'll go ahead and try to see the instances. Yep, I'm able to see the instances. You can see here I'm able to see the instance. I have got only viewer, right? So if I go ahead and try to do something else, I won't be able to do one even better thing, I would say, which is there here in Google Cloud, is that because my user is not having, let's say, editor permission or any other relevant role, because of which I can go ahead and start this instance. So because of that, even the UI is actually reflecting that. You can see in the UI itself, start button is disabled, which is good, I think, right? Okay, so with that, I think we'll go ahead and wrap up this particular video. I hope you learned that how you can go ahead and do the whole end-to-end setup for an organization, and you can go ahead and with this set up the whole thing for an enterprise organization and make it work, right? So with that, I'll say bye bye, and we will meet you in the next video. If you are liking the Google Cloud series, please make sure that you hit like and share it with others, and also go ahead and make use of these $300 which Google Cloud is giving you, so that you are able to go ahead and experiment and really learn things hands-on. Okay, all right folks, we'll see you in the next one. Take care, bye for now. Congrats on completing that tutorial. We have a lot more similar awesome tutorials on our channel which you can go through in the playlist section. Let us know what you think about our videos in the comment section, and if you like it, please do share it with your friends and hit the like button. Thank you.